Hey, what is going on, guys? So today we're taking a look at another Star Wars kit. It's been a while since we've taken a look at any Star Wars kits here, just because nothing really has come out that really grabbed my attention. Sorry about that. But the Super Star Destroyer here just came out, and I thought this was a part of the vehicle models line, but I'm suddenly noticing that there's no labeling on here about the whole vehicle models thing, which I'm... Okay, the regular Star Destroyer came out before, and the Super Star Destroyer came out now. And that's available just on its own as well, but it's also available in this set of the two of them. I didn't have just the regular Star Destroyer, so I figured just get the set of the both of them. The list price for this set, I believe, was around 1,500 yen, so it's pretty cheap. Obviously, they're pretty small, but still, yeah, they're part of the vehicle model line, as far as I know. It's just kind of weird that they don't have that on here anymore. So did they stop putting that on these boxes, or is this not actually part of that line? I'm not sure, but what I am sure of is that I'm thankful to USA Gundam Store for their support of this review. Of course, as always, guys, USA Gundam Store sponsored this review, so you can check out the different Star Wars stuff and of course everything else on their site, and you can save 10% using that coupon code, and the website is all down there in the video description, so check that out. So again, just getting back to the scale of these, this is the Super Star Destroyer up here is in 1 to 100,000 scale, so it's pretty extreme. The regular Star Destroyer is 1 to 14,500 scale, so yeah, they're both going to be very small, of course, and not all that large. You can say it would be cool to have these in the same scale, but of course the Super Star Destroyer would be very large, even if it was in the same scale as the Star Destroyer here. So I guess maybe, I don't know if they're planning on making any other larger scale of that, I don't know, but I just love the design of the Super Star Destroyer. It's such a cool design. The regular Star Destroyer, I mean, it's cool, it's iconic, but this one is, I think, much more kind of interesting, cool looking design, in my personal opinion. But anyway, let's take a look around the outside of the box here, shall we? So on the sides, it's just kind of got the same stuff there. On the bottom, the box is very thin, so it's not really a whole lot that they can really put on the outside of the box. But they did manage to squeeze a bunch of stuff in here. So let's take a close-up look. There's a little information here about the Super Star Destroyer, the regular Star Destroyer. It's in, yeah, really fine print there in Japanese and English. So if you want to check that out, you can see about that. Over here, just some images of that, so you can see just from a few different angles, and then just some detail shots of this. I mean, despite the small size of these kits, the detail on them is really nice. So I've previously reviewed a couple other of the vehicle model line kits, and they're really cool. They're really small, very simple, and relatively cheap, which is good, but really highly detailed, so I like them a lot. And then just a couple more images there of these. And there you can see how they're going to look side by side. So they're going to be kind of roughly the same size. The Super Star Destroyer is still going to be longer, but you know, generally the same size there. And they do include the little stand with them, of course, as well. So you've got all that included here in the box. So let's pop it open and see. So looks like you can see basically here, this runner is like all the parts for the Super Star Destroyer. And then the other runner is all the parts for the regular Star Destroyer, and then we've got the clear parts there for the stand as well. So we'll take a look at the runners in a moment. Let's just get a look here at the manual first. So the top of the manual, again, just a couple of shots there of the painted version of the kits, and then the color guide is here as well, and it's kind of like just gray. And then there's orange apparently in there somewhere. I'm not really sure where that orange is supposed to be. I guess the inside the thrusters there, or engines on the back of the Super Star Destroyer, I guess is we're gonna need that orange, but it's pretty much like gray and white, and that's pretty much it. On the back, we've got our parts list here, again, relatively simple, and then the construction on the inside. We've got over here on this page, we've got Super Star Destroyer construction, and then regular Star Destroyer on this side. And I gotta tell you guys, it's getting really tiresome saying Star Destroyer, Star Destroyer, Star Destroyer a whole bunch of times. Alright, well, let's get a look at the runners here. First up, we got these cool stickers for the stands, so those would be nice. You can stick that on the clear stand. You've got a cool little label for them. And the stands themselves are exactly the same for these, just BM1. I think that's, well, that must be short for vehicle model. I don't know, actually, I don't know. But yeah, there's the bases for those. And both runners have the same markings of A1 and A2, but just, again, obviously this is all parts just for the Super Star Destroyer, so you can see got all of that all situated here on this runner, which is just broken up into two halves, A1 and A2. I want to give you guys a closer up look, and we'll look at this again once the kit is all put together, but just a hint here at the detail. Oh, that tiny little detail in there is crazy, so it looks really cool. Definitely going to look really nice when this is put together. So there's that. And the regular Star Destroyer is actually broken up into A1, A2, A3, and A4 here with this runner, which is just separates into 4 parts, because I think originally When you buy just this kit on its own, it's packaged into a small box where the runners are just like all put together like that. So anyway, you just got like the main halves there and a couple little smaller pieces on there as well. And again, just the detail on these is really crazy. You've got like, if you take a close-up look here, you've got like some empty space where there's just kind of nothing and just like these little dots just kind of speckled along there. But I think when it's painted, you know, it'll still look really cool. So the other runners with some more of the little detail parts you can see is just insanely detailed. So basically the kind of you know, for these with them being like just all gray, you just kind of paint them in gray, like the light shade of gray, and then just dry brush a bunch on them just to bring out all the details, and that's pretty much all you have to do. So that's, I think, probably what we'll do here later on in the review after I get these built up. But for now, let me get these built up and then we'll take a look and see how they're going to look just straight out of the box. Alright, so here they are all built, and whoo, boy, I gotta say the detail on these things is pretty amazing. Let's take a look at the just regular Star Destroyer first here. I just want to make sure you guys are able to see a bunch of this detail here up there on the bridge, and then just even like here on the sides there up underneath. Got that part inlaid up inside of there. And then of course around back here on the back as well, all the detail inside there. So, and this thing is pretty amazing. You do have a couple spots where you see like the line between parts. In most places, like the seams between the different parts aren't really very noticeable. They hide them, you know, pretty well just in the design, except for like maybe here at the back you can see that line there is pretty visible. But I think once it's actually painted, I mean, it's probably just kind of going to blend in with the rest of all the details going on everywhere. So I don't think it's going to really be too distracting having that line there. If you wanted to try to get rid of that seam line, I think that'd be a pretty, you know, difficult time. Back here on the back too, you kind of have like a seam line kind of through these parts there. Yeah, I think just once the thing's all painted up and everything, it's just not going to really be probably all that noticeable. But as you can see, super detailed, and the size is all really nice too. Up here at the front, that mine is not quite closing up all the way, so you can see like there's a little bit of a gap there. Those should be closed flat, so I'll stick a little bit of glue in there and just hold that closed so that will just stay closed like that. Otherwise it's just kind of bowed out a little bit there at the tip, but otherwise, I mean, the construction of it is really nice. Just sits on top of the base here, and you can adjust the angle of that as you like, as it's just sitting up there on a ball joint. So very cool. And then of course the Super Star Destroyer, and this thing is so crazily detailed as well. Just take a look at the underside here first. If you look at all of that that's going on in there, it's just a crazy amount of detail. Trying to show this to you guys as close as possible so you can see all of that going on in there. It's crazy at the scale. It's pretty cool. So that's awesome. And then up here on the top too, you have all these rows of bits, and you actually have the bridge part in there. You can see that part there right next to my thumb, that part sticking up. The bridge of that one compared to the bridge of the regular Star Destroyer, so you can get a sense. Those are supposed to be, I think, relatively, I mean, I'm not totally sure on the Star Wars canon, but as far as I know, they're supposed to be like the same size, so you can see just the difference in scale, how this one is just so much larger. Yeah, this whole area here in the center is just made up of a bunch of different parts that all just fit in together to make these kind of rows and rows of structures there between here and like the center part. I just love the design of this, the look of it, as it really just sort of looks like this huge mega city that's just like being carried along inside of this giant very sharp pointy ship here. So it's just such a really cool, interesting design. I love it, just how long and thin it is. It's just like an arrowhead sort of shape for that, but it just looks really cool as a ship. And yeah, just the detailing is really cool. So up here too as well, this part, I mean, this isn't any separate part. This is all just molded into the one like bottom half part of the ship there, but just all that little detail in there. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on that other part. One thing I did also want to show you here. You can obviously see that they're small, but I just wanted to give you a little size comparison just to give you an idea how big those are going to be compared to like a regular RX-782 HG Gundam there. And just because I happen to have it nearby, here's the vehicle model for the Death Star as well, so you can get a sense of the scale of that. So really cool models. These things are so really nicely detailed. I feel like the Super Star Destroyer, especially the Star Destroyer as well, but especially the Super Star Destroyer here, just has so much more, just even tiny little details, even compared to how detailed the Death Star was there. So it's pretty intense. Let's go over to the painting bench. What I want to do first is just give these a coat of black primer. First, I feel like that'll be the best way to give it just a really dark undertone there first, just with that black primer, and then we'll, I think, spray a little bit of gray on top. If you look at the illustration here on the front of the box, how it's got, obviously this one side is really lit up because that would be the side facing whatever sun or nearest star, whatever is nearby the light source, and then the back side is in shadow because it's because of the way the light works, right? I thought it might be cool to try to paint it like that, so just like spray the whole thing all just like from one angle, so that it basically is mimicking like the sunlight. I'm gonna try that and see how it works. I'm not sure how well it's gonna work out. It might not look right, but I'm gonna try that. If that doesn't work, I'll just kind of give it a more kind of general spray, and then we'll rely more on just kind of other methods, dry brushing and things, just to bring out all the details. But I'm gonna give that a try. And anyway, let's go over to the paint bench. Alright, so after some paint and some wash and some dry brushing on there to bring out the details, here is how the two of them look, starting off with the regular Star Destroyer. So the two-tone effect that I went for that, or just spraying from one direct angle like this, so that this side is the brighter side and this side is the darker side. I think ultimately it worked out good when you have it in the correct lighting. So if you're looking at like from this way, it might look a little bit strange, or it looks like it's kind of like not painted fully or something, and you can really see the difference there between the two sides. But when you got it in the right lighting, it looks really good. So let me switch off the light over here on this side. So when I've got it with just the light over on the side there, lighting up that lighter side, I think it does look pretty good, and it pretty much achieved what I was going for, I think. So that is pretty cool. I'm really happy with how that came out. I think it looks awesome, and just like painting on these, I mean, you wouldn't really think, you know, it's gray plastic, and I painted it gray. It's not really going to be all that different, but you can really just tell the difference between painted. It just looks so much better. So painted and top coat. Also, whoops, let's not drop that. Yeah, here on the back, painted those in like a orangish yellow instead of, I think it was blue, it called for in the manual, right? But anyway, I wanted to go for a little bit different color for those, just to add a little bit of a different color. And I actually thought about adding like a stripe to the top of here, or maybe even like the Super Star Destroyer, adding like an orange stripe or something on there. But I think I may do that later on. I definitely want to get another one of these. So maybe give them like a little bit different color scheme later on for this first set, just paint them like close to the original color schemes. Now, I didn't check the color exactly, but I just tried to match them a little bit. This one's in a kind of obviously just very light gray, but this one's a little bit more bluish, as it is according to the manual. Super Star Destroyer just looks a little bit more bluish in its light gray tone, so I think the colors came out pretty good. I'm happy with that. I mean, yeah, just as you guys can see, I mean, the detail on these looks great when you've got it all painted and you've got the wash in there. I just use a black wash. Just use the Tamiya accent color black, and then just use some light gray for some dry brushing on there to bring out the details. Now, it's not quite as noticeable on this one, but it's more visible on the Super Star Destroyer. Let's take a look at that one. So this one, I just basically painted all of this part. So like when I was spraying the gray, I only sprayed it on this part. So some of that did, of course, just like overspray. You know, you have a good amount of control, but I just still did get some overspray into the center area. But I just I intentionally didn't spray directly into the center area, so that's still pretty dark after the black primer. So that intersection is still pretty dark, but with a little bit of gray around in there, and then the dry brushing on there to bring out these details on there. And then, so I use the dry brushing of just some light gray, and then a little bit of titanium silver on there as well, just to bring out those details. And you can see up underneath, and I'll just take this off of there for the moment, but you can see all the details under there. It looks really, really awesome in there as well, especially with the dry brushing and just bringing out all the little details in there. It's pretty amazing. So really, really awesome. I'm really, really happy with these kits. Just it's so cool to see all that detail. And again, if you are looking for some like little tiny greebly parts to use in your builds, in a Gundam build or something like that, you just want to get one of these kits and just chop it up just to use some of these little parts to go in your custom builds. I mean, these are awesome material for that. And the fact that these are relatively inexpensive too, you wouldn't really feel too bad about chopping these up for just some spare parts. So there's just a look at some of the detail there, a little bit more close up, and again, just the bridge there, that tiny little part sticking up. So awesome kits, can't really stress that enough, especially if you want to break out some paints and just do a little bit of work on them just to make them look even better. And then while I was there, I thought I might as well go ahead and paint up the Death Star here as well, a kit that I previously reviewed, but I just now painted it all up. So this one again just did all the primer in black, it's just like the other two, and then a different tone of gray for this one, so you'll see it's a little bit darker than what I used for the Star Destroyer here. So this one, pretty simple. I mean, it's just painted all in gray, panel lining, and top coat. That's pretty much it. So this one as well, I intentionally didn't spray directly into this center area, so that would just stay pretty black. So you still get some of the spray, and then I did do some dry brushing on these areas here as well, just to bring out the details. But yeah, just like sort of overspray basically is what's highlighting some of the little details on this intersection there, but still looking pretty dark, just because that's just kind of using the primer basically to act as a shadow. So I think that ended up working out pretty well, and it's a really fun exercise, something that I just hadn't really I tried out some kind of airbrushing styles, or airbrushing techniques, I guess you could call it, very simple as they are, but techniques that I hadn't really tried really necessarily too much before, so it's a good learning experience for me. I'm definitely looking forward to working on some more Star Wars models similar to these in the future. So yeah, again, any other sort of tips or something? I know there's probably tons of material out there online about like how the actual models for the movies were made and things like that. There's probably a lot of useful tips in there about how to go about painting and weathering these. But if you guys have any other useful resources or information or experience you guys would like to share about painting these and making them look sort of realistic or as they were, then do feel free to share those down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for that. So that's going to do it for the review, guys. Again, thank you to USA Gundam Store for their support in making these possible. If you want to check out some of these models, you can check out the link to their site down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.